And the short answer is I grew a beard. What's up, guys? It is episode 7 of Coffee Break, and this week we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to have Doug read the questions so I'm not scrolling on my phone and wasting B-roll shots.
Hey Nick, I'd love to hear your input on being a young business owner in a world dominated by older folks. I'm 29, I'm a custom cabinet maker, self-employed. My business is doing well and I have enough work to do, but it's something that I've frequently experienced. 50% of the time when I meet a client that has received a recommendation for my work, the first thing out of their mouth is, "Oh wow, you're young." Usually once I start the pitch, they see I know what I'm talking about. They calm down a little bit and they begin to trust me. But I'd love to hear your input on this.
I dealt with something very similar, and the short answer is I grew a beard. But in a serious answer, I think you started to allude to it at the end. Actually, I'm going to be very serious for a second about the beard comment, because when I did start my company, I got that comment a lot. Even if I shave now, I look much younger than I guess I am. I don't know. I'm 30. I forget how old I am. I'm 32, and that you started to allude to it at the end of your question. There is that once you started talking, that they got more comfortable with you, and I think that's where you need to come in right off the bat. You know, it's not so much about what you look like, or I think going into it also being afraid that they're gonna judge you based on how young you are, or how young you look, is setting yourself up for, you're basically going in there waiting for them to comment on it. So I think for yourself, kind of get past that, but have that conversation, have a conversation with them on the phone beforehand, before meeting them. Hop on a phone. If you're getting an email inquiry, say, hey, I'd love to chat on the phone with you, for a couple of minutes, just get a good feel for this project. So when I do come on site and we do meet, I have a good sense of what's going on, and I'm not walking into something and like trying to think on the fly. I think that right there, actually I know that right there is really important, because it's setting yourself up as the pro. Chat with them, explain your process, explain who you are, explain what you do. There doesn't need to be a conversation around age. If you show up and they're like, man, you're young, celebrate that. Talk about, yeah, I am, and it, I love this industry. I love this craft. I love building cabinetry. And it's something that I hope that I'm inspiring other young guys to do, because the older generation is retiring, or there's not as many talented, great guys in the industry anymore, because so many kids have went off and went in different career paths, and I chose to kind of stick working with my hands. Celebrate how young you are, because there are a ton of people out there that are number one, looking for young guys that are passionate about it, but also excited to work with someone young that can bring a level of freshness to what they're looking to do. Oftentimes our company in itself is relatively young, and that's a compliment we get oftentimes, is that we're young and we're fresh, and we're always thinking about bringing new ideas to the table, and we're always open to being more collaborative. And we haven't been doing this for 50 plus years and kind of getting tired of it, where that's really, for the client side, really beneficial, and for your own side, where you really should celebrate it. However, to go back to my first point, when I did grow a beard, it was very much, people had said that it put me in a position where, actually I'm not even going to get into it, because it really doesn't offer anything except for the fact that I grew a beard and people said I look older and I fit the part, and I started wearing a flannel shirt, and then that was it. So, question 2.
Do you see a shift in the construction industry due to COVID-19? Do you think construction will slow down at all? I'm still busy as can be, but curious what it will look like in 6 months to a year. What does your crystal ball tell you? That's a 4-parter.
That is a lot of questions. So we talk about this on the Modern Craftsman podcast as well. And John brings up a good point a few times now, specifically around COVID, how our industry isn't being impacted right now because we're not seeing the repercussions of manufacturing delaying or pausing. For us, you said that you're busy as can be. Same. We had, when this happened, I think the entire world hit pause for a minute, and a lot of industries are still in that pause mode or starting to slowly ramp back up. But for us, at least, and for a lot of the people that I know that I've talked to in this industry, there was this brief pause, and then it was like everyone hit fast forward, and we started getting, more calls and more leads coming in because we chose not to slow down anything. We were still marketing. We were still posting on social media. We were still chatting with our clients on a daily basis, following up with people that wanted to build or renovate, and it just started getting busier and busier. And part of me wants to believe that that's probably because with everything going on, working from home, they realize they need more space, or now is the opportunity to move out of the city, or now I don't want to live in a place that there's thousands of people around me all the time. I want space, or hey, let's build that vacation home that we've been thinking about because it would be nice right now if we weren't stuck in this home that we work and live in. So I think in that sense, that's why a lot of us are really busy. I think there's going to be the repercussions I'm talking about is due to manufacturing, and there's been the reference to window manufacturers shutting down, and then instead of 2 to 3 weeks, now it's 4 to 5 weeks. And we have a project that we had tile coming from Spain. They shut down, so that put us months behind. We have a custom skylight being made. They hit pause where that one's running 3 weeks behind. So I think that's where we're going to see this trickle effect. What I can't really speak to is whether or not the economy is going to affect our slowdown. I think in a lot of ways, yes, but I think it's also going to be dependent on which market. I saw an article just the other day that there's a high-rise in downtown Boston that they're talking about now shrinking. Rather than building X amount of feet, they're shrinking it down in height because they want to cut costs, and if the project's going to move forward, they need to make it less expensive. So I think in this industry, being that we're, part of our job is being adaptable, I think a lot of us are going to adapt, and I think the industry as a whole is going to adapt. In hope, and I kind of forecast my team doing this, is we're going to coast through this, and we're going to just continue to navigate down this windy road and make sure that we're staying on path. So in short, I don't necessarily think that there's a slowdown coming for construction. I just think that we're going to need to make some, we're just going to need to adapt to certain circumstances, and especially around scheduling on projects.
Follow up, has anything good come from the changes caused by COVID?
I think there's actually a lot of good that comes from this, and specifically around safety and health. And I'm going to speak, totally honest on my part, and I think there's a lot of guys that can relate to me, is that we never had a formal safety plan in place. We grew very quickly. We practiced safe. We took, we got certifications on things, but we never really sat down and said, hey, we need a safety plan. We need a health and safety plan. And this is when, during that slowdown that we had, we were able to kind of reposition ourselves, and then we hired a safety officer on retainer and said, listen, now's the time for us to do this. I can dedicate some time to it because our projects are slowing down. We're still working, but we're slowed down, and not the dedication, but the requirement of being on site is kind of spread out a little bit more, so I don't have to be there as much, or my guys don't have to be there as much because there's not as many trades working. So using that time to work on the business, in health and safety, the fact that we had to add hand washing stations to all of our projects, I did that. I remember doing that and immediately saying, I don't know why we haven't done this sooner. The fact that the guys didn't have a proper place to wash their hands before they ate lunch was, to me, thinking about it now is borderline crazy. So it's like, all right, let's write that into our plan. When we start a job, hand washing station, like hot water, like let's make sure that the guys have a safe and healthy place to work. And trickling out of health and safety, just business itself. we've been able to adapt with Zoom meetings, saving, it's sometimes saving 3 hours a day rather than having to drive an hour to a job, have a meeting, probably spend a little bit longer than you need to because you get caught up talking, and then driving an hour back somewhere. That's a lot of time wasted. Yeah, you're on the phone in the car, but it's not as productive. Where a Zoom meeting, we're able to hop on with a client, have a conversation, hit all our points, and then it's hang up and we go right back to what we were doing. That's been great. And moving a lot of our contracts, I've wanted to bring those onto a digital platform forever. I was able to dedicate time to do that and build out a digital platform where I'm not sending a paper copy, or I'm not sending an email for them to print, sign, and then send me back in the mail, or scan it and send it back. We've built it out so we can make it streamlined where, hey, I need a contract, I'm ready to move forward with the work, no problem. Comes through your email, you can digitally sign it. So I think that's where, if you haven't already, taking the opportunity to use any of this time that you have to, improve one or many of the processes in your company.
Have you gained any wisdom around how much these added investments in mechanicals and or building envelope add to the overall value of a property?
That's a great question. And again, I'm gonna reference John on The Modern Craftsman, because he talks about
John Horahan
on The Modern Craftsman. He talks about Zillow and how it would be great if they had the HERS rating or the air change, the ACH rating on Zillow to let you know how well the house performs. And I just had this conversation with a client earlier. It's unfortunate because you don't get all the specs when you're buying a house. And I say that loosely because really great real estate agents and realtors and brokers, they're gonna be a powerhouse and get you that information and make sure that you totally understand. But think about buying a car. You're able to log onto that website and you're able to see everything. The engine, the performance of the engine, the transmission, the fuel mileage, everything about it. Where a home, you're just getting how many bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet, what amenities does it have. There is really no opportunity to say, well, how well does that house perform? What are the average utility costs? Well, okay, I know it runs on oil, but how much oil does it burn? I think from that side of it, it's really starting, the market is starting to educate itself, and it's trickling into the consumers, where the consumers are coming more educated and understanding the better building practices because of guys like Matt Reisinger that is producing this content to be able to to see it at as he says, a nerdy level, like building science and what it means and what it does for the performance of the home. So is there value on the resale side? Absolutely, if that is being marketed correctly. You need, if you're not trying to sell a house just like everyone else, or if you're not trying to build a house just like everyone else, then you need to market that house differently. Let me say that again. If you're trying to build a different type of home than everyone else, then you need to market that home differently. You can't market like everyone else because you're trying to market in a pool of homes that don't compare. And in whatever way, whether it's they don't compare because they're not yours, or they don't compare because they're more energy efficient, or they're nicer looking, or whatever the case may be, your marketing approach can't just be standardized if you're not just building a quote-unquote standardized home. So yes, the resale value can absolutely be increased based on how well educated the consumer or the buyer of that potential home is, and whether or not it matters to them. It's also finding the right buyer. So I mean, I'd love to see a revision to something like Zillow or one of these realtor websites where they're going to start requiring the performance ratings. I actually really believe that they will, especially with building codes becoming more and more strict. And I forget the data, but I think I'm going to make this up and someone can correct me. Within the next 10 years, we're going to be building almost to a passive level anyway. So it's going to be really important to know that what you're buying is code compliant. or in what that code compliance is. So, yeah. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And if you guys have questions, make sure you drop them in the comments below, even if it's a question related to the construction of one of our projects. We have a ton of great projects going on and a ton coming up, so I'm happy to answer them, and we'll see you guys next week.